No one looks at you like you're a douchebag in a vintage Rolls Royce. Everyone wants to know about the car, so it engages conversation.
Yeah.
I'm all about engaging conversation with people. And I do believe the car world and car culture is the greatest equalizer of bringing people together.
It is.
Who are not from the same background.
That's right.
I've met people who are billionaires or, heads of big companies that I may never have met if it wasn't for a shared common bond of you love a certain thing. And that seems to be the great equalizer. And I will say the Porsche world, the Porsche people seem to be the most friendliest, down-to-earth, easygoing, welcoming people, more so than some other marks that I'm not going to mention.
Yeah.
Porsche people just generally,
that seems to be a common thread.
Seem
that
pretty friendly.
Yeah,
and I've been all over the world.
Yeah.
And that doesn't change. Porsche's a language.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes you find yourself, let's say in Australia, where you can't understand what they're saying,
Sure.
and you got to read the subtitles, but we speak Porsche,
Well,
right?
it's Magnus. It's interesting you say that cars are the strongest common bond that you're aware of, being a guitar player, even more so than music. You think?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we had a brief conversation earlier on about, I talk about people liking to collect, and I talk about these camps of Ferrari, Porsche, Rolex, Omega, Gibson, Fender, right? You sort of gravitate towards one or the other. Like when it comes to guitars, I'm a Gibson guy.
Sure.
I like other guitars, but I've never owned a Fender, believe it or not. I like Guilds, I've got a Martin, but I've never owned a Fender. I've also never owned a Rolex. Ironically, I currently own a Ferrari, so there's, there's a kink in that method there.
Yeah,
but
you're bridging the gap. The 308, yeah.
Yeah, it's like the Ferrari I own, though, is not, it's I joke it's the thinking man's Ferrari. The 308 GT4 Dino, Bertoni designed, is not the Ferrari that you think of. Oh, Willow needs some attention.
There you go.
It's kind of like if you're going to buy a Lamborghini, you're probably not thinking you're going to want to buy an Espada.
Yeah.
But that would be the Lamborghini I'd want to buy.
Yeah.
Would be an Espada. So, I'm kind of, interested in slightly oddball things, right, Willow? I'm interested in you.
And then you also, you guys recently got a Corvette as well, is that right?
Yeah, we have a C3 Corvette. Well,
that was a good jump.
Well,
that was
just
a great
jumped
jump.
over the 914.
Yeah, I say you got to respect the Vet.
Yeah.
Right, the Corvette is the world's longest continuous running production sports car, celebrating 70 years. Came out in 1953, right? More so than, these iconic cars, like the Ford Mustang's an iconic car. The Porsche 911 is an iconic car. The Corvette is an iconic car in its 8th generation. Obviously I would have loved a split window 63 C2, but the C3 to me is iconic 70s shape.
Yeah.
It's boogie nights.
It is.
It still represents great value for money.
Significant value.
Yeah.
Oh my God. You
And
can scoop one of those for what? 15 grand, maybe
You can
less.
get a decent one for 15.
Yeah.
If you're really adventurous, you can get a piece of crap for like 5 or less.
Yeah, sure.
When we were looking at C3s, though, the thing that did surprise me, I wanted the chrome bumper version, the early ones.
Yeah.
They're kind of going up, but the fiberglass bumper, 73 and onward C3 that goes through 82, I believe, it's just such an iconic shape. But it doesn't do anything good other than look good. It's not fast, doesn't stop,
Oh no, the
doesn't
Corvette
handle.
It's like me.
But it doesn't really matter. We enjoy driving it. The heater works really well in it, and the wipers work really well.
Yeah.
Which now that we're in, rainy
Yeah,
California,
it's
where
perfect.
it rains for the past 4 months, is kind of an ideal car.
Yeah.
But there's no obviously you can make it go fast. I get it. And when we were looking for a Corvette, Hannah and I, we wanted a C3. We wanted mid-70s, but we didn't want one that had big, loud side pipes.
Yeah.
So it was kind of hard to find one that was actually somewhat stock.
Yeah.
That hadn't been modified, that didn't have big loud side pipes, that sort of ticked our boxes of affordability. We ended up finding that one in the metallic blue with blue vinyl interior. And like I say, it doesn't really do anything great other than look great, but we love it for what it is. So yeah, we have a C3 Corvette.
So as we walk around the garage, I see that every single car is very unique, whether it's the interior or the exterior color or the different modifications that are on it. How important is expression to you and uniqueness?
It's pretty important. It's like I'll backtrack into the Turbo S. I didn't love that car to begin with because it wasn't unique. ironically, a Turbo S in LA in silver. I rode him silver metallic, kind of a common car. And I resisted adding any of my personality to it to begin with. And what I love about these cars is if she's a pain, let me know.
No, I've always said I want a female German Shepherd, so this is...
So here we go.
Yeah.
All right. So it's a great question. I see these cars as a blank canvas for me to add my own expression to. You own the car, you can do whatever you want. If you don't want to drive it, fair enough. If you want to put it on a golf course and have guys with gloves, white gloves and Q-tips tell you what's right and wrong with it, great. For me, I like to add my own personality to the cars. And my sort of area of, I guess, inspiration is late 60s, early 70s. You know, the glory days of motorsports, I believe. So, you know, I combined elements of Americana and hot rods and sports cars from that era into cars such as this 914. So I like to make them unique. I like to add my own personality to it. And I would say half of the cars that I own have been modified in some form. Even if it's just lowering it, putting it on wider wheels, giving it a different stance. Some are a lot more extreme, like the 964, which is highly modified in both performance and bodywork. Some are just, you know, sort of paint jobs. I like these bold, color-blocked, race-inspired liveries. But ironically, I've never been a fan of emulating factory liveries.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, I am sick and tired of Gulf livery, Martini livery. You know, it's been done to death. There's nothing unique about it. What I will do is pull, okay, Martini livery, I like the silver, blue, and burgundy, right? So I'll spin that in a different way without making it super obvious of, oh, I just copied the Martini livery.
Yep.
So I'm all about taking inspiration from that, but not necessarily duplicating the way it raced at Le Mans in 1973 with the Gulf liveries. To me, I'm not interested in
That makes sense.
So for me, it seems like as you are an artist, all of these cars are some sort of canvas for you.
Correct.
And you allow your expression and creativity to flow through them.
Yeah, I say that to people all the time, you know. Just add little things that are unique to you, whether it's an old steering wheel you had or, you know, you want to put a little stripe here or a little bit of color there. I don't worry about what other people think about what I do to my cars. You know, this is a hobby for me. I don't build customer cars. I seldom sell cars. I like to collect, drive. I like to build, collect, and drive. You know, so for me, I'm not trying to make anyone else happy other than myself. So that's the ultimate freedom to do whatever I want to do when I want to do it, the way I want to do it. And because it's not a business, sometimes I'm restoring, sometimes I'm not. You know, sometimes things come into my life, like this 914 was a perfect example. This was a car I didn't need that I bought from a buddy. I bought it simply because he'd replaced the door with a yellow door and painted a black arrow on it. And that inspired me to do this whole mod art sort of pop rock sort of livery based around the car, which ironically, the guy I bought it from, Felix Holst, and I collaborated together on the livery. We showcased it at SEMA in the Mobile One booth in 2019, and we'd put it together over 3 days with probably $500 worth of materials, and it was a rattle can paint job. And if you've ever gone to SEMA, you know SEMA's all about big budget, high dollar, highly sponsored, endorsed, branded builds. This was probably the only 914 that had ever been at SEMA, and it was put together in literally 3 days with under $500 worth of materials with a punk rock attitude.
Yep.
So the moral to that story was sort of showing nothing ever needs to be perfect to stand out.
Yeah.
Nothing ever is perfect. I don't strive for perfection.
Right.
I don't need things to be perfect. I'm not that guy that's worried about little dings and scratches and chips. To me, that's all character. You know, it's like I talk about it all the time. Favorite pair of old shoes, worn in, broken down, comfortable.
Oh, yeah.
That's what cars are for me.
Do you see any similarities between clothing culture and car culture?
Yeah, for sure. And I think more so now than ever.
Yeah.
You know, it's always been there. The Eddie Bauer edition Jeep wagon.
that's right.
Yeah. The yellow bean Subarus.
Yeah, these things are not new.
Yeah.
People have been collaborating forever, right?
Yeah.
It's a great question. There's a lot of clothing. Look at Ralph Lauren and his collection,
Oh,
right?
yeah, right.
You look at all these guys that are into fashion. I mean, cars have always been a fashion statement.
Right.
Yep.
Some fashion statements come into style. Timeless classic design never goes out of style.
That's right.
Whether it's a car, or Levi's 501s.
Yep.
So to me, design icons are always there.
Yeah.
Now more so than ever, you got people like Hypebeast, Car
Yep.
Club,
Yeah.
right, collaborating. You see all these designers collaborating, Virgil with Mercedes, and
Yep.
just all over the board. You know, it's a different world. Hey, no, calm down, sit, wait. So I think it's a great time to be, to sit. It's a great time to sit.
Good girl.
It's a great time to wait. That's a good girl. See, Willow's great, but if she doesn't get attention, then you see what she's doing.
Yeah,
to get
there it
attention.
goes.
But no, it's a great question. I ended up doing a collaboration with Nike.
Yep.
These 277 Dunks,
Yep.
based around my car 277.
Yep.
That's it. You know, and it's everything for me starts organically, simply. There's no agent, manager pushing collaborations. They either happen or they don't.
Yeah.
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 And the Nike one was a great story because I got an email, I had a phone call, off, sit. And essentially, it started with, hey, how do you feel about collaborating with one of our pro skaters,
Yep.
a shod wear, on a skate shoe?
Yep.
And I said, sounds awesome, but I got to tell you, I don't skate.
Yeah.
They go, it doesn't matter. We like your style. It's a collaboration. We like your attitude. And that was just completely out of left field. But that's an example of fashion companies. I mean, Nike is like the world's largest sneaker brand, really.
Yeah.
It really
yeah.
is.
For them to come to me and want to collaborate around one of my cars, it was like, wow. I didn't question it as to how did that happen. It just happened organically.
Yeah.
I said yes, and the rest is history. So
Yep.
I think it's a good time to be a lot of mashups, of collaborating, outside of the norm.
Yep.
Things that
Yeah.
wouldn't have happened 10 years ago are happening now. You see all these corporate brands, Porsche's a perfect example, collaborating with all types of people.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Tennis players, designers, there are no boundaries. In the old days, you kind of had to stay within a box. Now it's kind of like anything's possible.
And you're seeing that with a lot of brands now, car brands especially, things never going out of style. Brands are bringing back redesigns of cars that they produced in the 70s, 80s, the Grand Wagoneer,
Yeah.
the Defender. You're seeing these cars come back in a modern...
It's
because
heritage,
exactly.
Yeah.
So
You look at when the Mustang came back. I don't know what
Yeah.
generation that was. Probably the 6 Mustang that
Yeah.
looked like the original one. And, the Challenger came back. The Camaro came back. These cars
they all come
seem
back.
to be on the final hurrah yet
Yeah.
again. The final swan song of the Camaro and the,
Yep.
8-second quarter mile, 1,000 horsepower, Challenger, right?
They all came back, but Porsche never left.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Porsche never left. I mean, like the Corvette, never left.
Right.
The
Yep.
Mustang pretty much really never left.
Yeah.
Those are the only 3 iconic sports cars that you can say were in continuous production.
Yeah.
The 911 celebrating its 60th anniversary this year. So is the Mustang. Corvette's celebrating its 70th anniversary. So to me, it goes back to good design never goes out of style.
Yeah.
Things just evolve, right?
Sure.
The 911, yes, it's got bigger than it was, but it's still,
Still a 911.
still on 2-door
Yeah.
rear engine.
Engine's still in the
Yeah.
wrong place.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what they got the Cayman for.
Right.
So the first place we stopped when we flew in on Monday was the Peterson, and you actually had a show there,
I
an
did.
exhibit.
Yes.
So how was that for you? Was that obviously you got, the public got to see a large majority of your collection, which we're lucky enough to see today. But how was that received? What did you?